Why are you pausing like that?
I was waiting for that minute. I'm going to start at 10. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sophisticated Ignorance. I am Nieema Simone. It was just weird the way it was counting.
I'm Vixon J.
And we have a guest here today. We have my homegirl, Cole. Hey.
Welcome.
She was here a few episodes back.
A few?
If you guys remember. Yeah, a few.
That was a while back.
Yeah, it was like a year.
Yeah.
That's not a while.
Damn, it's been a year already?
Yeah. Time flies.
Are you sure? I was sworn it was sometime last year.
No, it was like November,
it
December.
It was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Well,
yeah, about to be 2 already.
Damn, well, you alive. You still here. So shout out to you.
What?
Good luck for still, supporting the show.
Oh, God. The episode she was on, she talked about coming from St. Louis into New York and how the transition was.
Right.
So she's still in New York. She's still thugging out in New York.
Yeah, fast forward. How's that transition working out?
It's great, actually. It's been 5 years this year.
Yeah.
5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I've been in New York.
So before we get into that, you want to give them a rundown of some of the stuff you've been getting into since we last spoke to you?
On the last episode of Love and Ignorance?
I'm still with the same company, working with Nieema. I have my own company now. I have a women's boutique. It's called Chic Mode. And I also teach entrepreneurship right now to high school in Brooklyn.
That's dope. Mm-hmm. Look at you changing lives and making people look good.
Yeah. So New York is bringing the best out of me.
That's good.
Talk your shit, yo.
Talk heavy.
Talk about it.
Talk heavy.
No, we just gotta get to the accent and you Gucci.
No. I like that.
I like the accent.
Yeah, keep the accent. I like
If
that.
it's gonna come, I really try to hide it sometimes.
Have you incorporated dead ass to your vocabulary or no?
Sometimes. I say mad a lot.
That's cool. You getting there.
Right.
Yeah.
5 more years.
Progress. Once you get a strong suck my dick, then
Right.
out of here.
Just give him a cool my guy and you're in New York around.
We say bruh a lot, but I don't even think that's a New York thing.
Nah.
It's not, right?
That's just a people thing.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
So before we start into the show, everybody has the word of the week. One word that describes their week.
And as our guest co, you go first. Give us a word. What's a word that defines the week for you?
The week for you.
Relaxed. It was very relaxed. Calm. Mellow. Not too much going on.
You just giving us synonyms for relax?
Yep.
Relax, cool, chill,
mellow.
nothing.
Yep. It was cool.
Funeral.
Should have skipped you.
What?
Should have skipped
Where
him.
you always gotta go last now. You always gotta go last because you always have some off the wall.
Life
shit.
is wild. Like I had to shoot a funeral recently, and
The last time we were here, you were talking about that.
And that summed up your whole week.
I mean, because like
how many people died?
it was just the one.
Okay.
No, I mean it's the craziest thing that happened to me this week because I mean work is whatever, who cares? But shooting a funeral is a whole different monster because like you are capturing people's grief in real time. You know what I'm saying? And like the person who hired me, they were just like it was like their brother who passed away or whatever, and they were like, hey, just kind of free range, do whatever, just capture everything, and like I had to separate myself from what was happening because obviously it's not. I don't know the person,
right.
But at the same time, it's like people are crying, people are grieving. It's a
sad.
very sensitive moment. So, like, it's a matter of capturing that with taste at the same time, making sure you get everything. Like, there was an open casket. I have to like film the body. It's like, it was awkward.
That's weird.
It's weird. It's different. And funny enough, this is not the first funeral I've actually recorded in the sense of like the ceremony, but this was like the first time I was like all up personal within the the family and. Just capturing people, like, whether being sad or just, so, I mean, it's different. That's what I'm going to do my best to chop it up and make it look as nice as possible, but, I don't want to get into the funeral market. I don't want to be funeral vixen. That's not my jam.
Yeah, we can skip that part.
Yeah, I don't think that's where I want to get my monies. But, that's about it. It's over now, so.
Okay, Steven, I'll go
last. I'll go with... appreciation. Well, 2 words. Appreciation and acknowledgement. Like, I don't normally, like, care for my birthday and whatnot. Like, it's just another day. I went out to eat, and then, honestly, I think I was recording with Bianca that day, and that was my birthday. But the day itself of like just people reaching out was.
Nice,
I was taken
right?
aback. Like some people even had like really like long messages to send me, and I was like, wow, okay. Like it feels good to be acknowledged and appreciated, you know, just in general. So it started my week off pretty well.
It felt good, didn't it?
I mean, of course.
My week.
Oh, here we go.
Shut up. My shit is always spicy. What? I don't even know if I have a word. It's a
no words.
No, like,
emotions.
it's
Bruh. Just go with bruh.
an emoji. Bruh. That's it. It was bruh. So my birthday was 2 days before Steven, so it was last Friday. And it was nice. Steven actually made me cry with his little message. Steven and
Y'all both
my
made me.
uncle.
Y'all done made me cry, but it's like, look at these best friends. Look at these buddies. Look at these wonder twins.
It wasn't even that deep. I was confused. I wasn't confused.
Nah, my nigga, that shit was poetry.
Like, nah, I know
Don't
you.
play around.
Like, nah, I know she's sensitive, but I could have gotten way deeper.
You didn't hit her with an HBD. You had a nice prose
Yeah.
of how she, how she meant to you, and that was dope. That was
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, it was nothing new that I haven't
Granted,
discussed
but
It was
publicly.
different.
But to the
It was
webs,
different.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, come on, that's
And
like
then
a
Steven
public
is
show
not
of
the most
affection. Right.
affectionate one.
We get it.
I'm a little bit more than he is, and even then I'm not.
He helped you with,
So it's
with his
nice.
words. That's nice.
Yeah, I
That's
appreciate
what's
that.
up.
So that was really nice because, like, I enjoy my birthday. I enjoy it because I have, I guess I go out more. I have more people around me
Word.
who truly can appreciate me. But then it's still times when I'm just like, it's my birthday again. The fuck? What's gonna go wrong? So it felt nice. So I hung out with family. I did that. Then we had my birthday dinner. So it was cool for whatever it was.
Word.
The rest of the work week was work as usual. I didn't leave work till 10 o'clock last night.
Yikes.
That's how that goes.
Tragic.
Yeah,
Wowzers.
I was like, Cole already home.
Yep. At 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
That's how you gotta move.
Don't
Yeah.
know life, but it sounds
Yeah.
crazy.
struggling.
All right.
But other than that, it was a good week. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. And
That is all over.
my birthday weekend taught me a lot about myself and people I keep around me.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. So on that note, the segue.
Segue queen.
Yo.
I'm horrible at this. That's why one of y'all need to just start.
Nah,
doing
you
that.
got it.
No.
Nah, you got it.
No,
You've
said-
already set the standard. I
Yeah.
can't meet it.
I can't
Well-
do any better.
On another note, we're gonna talk about dating, of course, and
Yes.
how our moms influence who we date and how we date. So I think it was Bianca who sent the meme.
I sent it.
You sent it,
Yeah.
and it said who has the worst track records when it comes to dating men, the daughters or moms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I took that and I tried to incorporate the guys
Could
into
this
this
be
episode as well.
flipped for our fathers and sons?
Yeah, I have that in there
Okay.
as well. That's what I just said.
No, I'm gonna leave. Because clearly I'm not paying attention.
You're having a Nieema moment now.
Hey.
It's usually me.
Oh, it's Freaky Friday. We're switching. Oh, baby.
So, it was a good question because I know growing up, I saw my mom, her husband, and different men she dated, and I always say I wanted to do the complete opposite. And so I always tried to do the opposite, but somehow I still feel like I closed myself off from just certain things in general. Like being affectionate and being open. I closed myself off to that because I've seen people open up and then it backfired. So I think I've become more accustomed with like being alone a little bit. Even in high school and college, I didn't date much. I didn't have too many boyfriends throughout my anything.
Same.
I probably had like 2 boyfriends ever. Never really had serious relationships. Everybody was just someone I dated here and there. So it's never been anything too serious. And I've always tried to figure out why is that. Is it because of what I saw growing up with my mom and my grandmothers and aunts? Am I afraid of it? And I can't quite grasp the issue or like the trigger behind it. So for you, Cole, how do you date? Let's start with that. How do you date?
Yikes.
How do you date?
That's
Yikes.
Like
that's the broad question.
how can
She's
I-
right. She's right.
It
It
is
is broad.
How do you date? What does that mean?
I'm trying to figure out exactly like when it comes to men, what are some of the 3 things you look for? Just the 3.
Stability,
Mm-hmm.
mental stability, financial stability.
All the abilities.
Yeah, all the stabilities. Fun. I want you to be fun. I don't want you to be boring.
Oh, no.
And I like to look at the connections you have with your family. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially with your mother.
Yeah. That's always. I was talking to a guy recently who's like, girls have a problem with men who are mama's boys, and I'm like, well, I don't think women have a problem with you being a mama boy. It's just different kinds of mama's boys. Like the one who has a good relationship with his mom and she respects him, and you know he respects her. Then it's the one to where your mama's just too much in your business and you can't cut that tie.
Or you still your mama boyfriend.
Right.
Don't be a mama's baby. I think that's really important.
Right.
No,
right.
There's a difference between a mama's boy and a mama's baby. Like your mama's still cradling you and you still sucking on her teeth. It's wild. Don't suck your mama's teeth.
That visual is crazy.
No, it's a thing.
It's real.
It's
not physical teeth, just more of a supportive teeth.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's just too much.
Yeah,
and men don't know how to break that tie.
A lot of mothers still enable their sons a lot of
behavior.
Yeah.
And it started from when they were little, make them seem like they could do nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody
a
else
whole killer out here.
Right. Not
my baby would
not
never.
My
my baby.
And she heads in the gap. Like, come on, don't do this.
So I would say, for me, I look for emotional stability. That's a big thing for me. I need someone who is a provider and someone who is open to different things. I can have a conversation with, because a lot of these men don't know how to have a conversation. Like, they can't talk. They can't talk.
No.
Like, they could text you, but when you sit and have a real conversation, it's just like, so now I'm bored.
Shrug emoji.
Yeah.
Now I'm bored.
What you doing every 5
What you
minutes?
doing? Yeah.
Well,
Did you eat today?
But did you eat today though?
What you ate? Was it good?
Was it good?
You at work?
Was it good?
Were you at work though?
Yeah, but you know my schedule.
Right, that's the thing.
So
You
long,
my
why
schedule.
you
Do you send them your schedule printed out? Is there like a printed schedule?
But no, if the conversation, I already told you what days I work. So you know I'm at work.
Right.
You know what I'm doing.
But what you doing though? I don't understand.
Say something else. Say something else. There's so much more we can talk about.
No, I know. I'm just teasing. But yeah, no, niggas can WYD you to death.
Yes. All day.
What you
It
doing?
be
I'm
11
dead.
o'clock at night. What you doing? I hope I'm asleep.
You clearly not because you respond.
Do not disturb.
Word, do not disturb.
Do not disturb.
So when it comes to you guys, even when it comes to your moms and the type of, radiance and elegance they exude or what they don't exude, like, how does that affect the women that you date?
I was recently just talking about this with somebody, but my mother's track record with dating has been not good.
Mm-hmm.
Father included,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that my father has been
Toxic at times.
My father, he's very consistent with who he is, which could be taken in a good way and a bad way. He's not one to change who he is, and that goes with traits and all these things. My father's very stuck in his ways, and I remember when I was younger, after my parents split up, all the people that she would date, and majority of them were trash.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of them, and I know that was my mother's attempt to kind of find love with these different people, and she had a type, for the most part. But yeah, all of them, even to the recent person that she had to divorce, garbage, just all garbage. And I don't know whether that's just she was leaning towards specific people because of like certain parameters, like they had like a checklist that checked off for her, but she didn't see bigger signs. Yeah, so that, I mean, I don't think it affected my way that I date, but I've been very open with my mom about, like, my dating, like, who I'm dating or who I'm not dating or what the kids would be. She's very interested in that, only because of the grandbabies, let's be honest.
Let me get these kids.
But, yeah, she's looking for the kids. It's like, not for me. Not yet. But, yeah, so I don't know if there's a correlation there, but just realizing how my mother has dated in the past and how I'm dating now, it's two different things. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I try to look for a piece of my mom in the people that I date, because that'd be weird too. But I'm certainly looking for someone that could respect the fact that I have a close relationship with my mom. You know what I'm saying? And that's important to me. It's important for me that my partner, if it were to get serious, that they see my relationship with my mom and could appreciate that.
But is there a boundary that you have, like, your mom will never overstep, right? and if that, because that's a big thing.
Really?
Like,
well, no, okay.
Caribbean parents, there's no boundary.
Yeah, but then there's times when you have to be able to say, Mom, this is my partner. And partner, this is my mom. Like, y'all have to figure out how to get along.
Oh, yeah, no.
Never let anyone
my mom is never that
disrespect.
toxic. She'll probably push the, so when y'all having kids? But not directly to, like, to my partner or anything, but she'll probably say that to me. It's like, all right, so what y'all doing? Blah, blah, blah. She'll be in the business, but not enough for it to be like, yo, what's your mom's problem? And just be like, oh, she just birthed me. I don't know what to know. You know what I'm saying? It's never been like that. So I think she can have her way of kind of like pushing her own narrative, but never to the point where it like ruins the relationship.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah.
Pumpkin, Steven. Sorry.
I stopped trying at this point. Okay. When it comes to my parents, like, my parents been together since I've been created, so I've never had to see either of my parents ever date. There have been times where I've seen like toxic things between them, because I feel like, I don't know if it's like that for all Caribbean families, but I feel like with Haitian families, you either got the parents that's like mad lovey-dovey, or you got the parents that don't do anything in front of you. Like, you don't see no sort of affection. Like, they don't say anything cute to each other. It's like,
how did I get
when you were with one, like when you with one parent, they talking shit. They're not necessarily talking shit, but they're saying things
little
about
grapes,
the other. Yeah, like little,
like his feet stank, and he don't never.
Like, you become the middle person. The middle person.
And it's not even that they talking to me directly. It's just they in their space being comfortable and just saying how they feel about the other one. Yeah. So I've seen little things like that, and I think maybe subconsciously that's why, like, when I'm in relationships, I'm probably the affectionate type, because I never saw that in my household. Like, I've never heard my parents ever say I love you to each other or to me. Not that it had an impact on me per se, but it's just something I never witnessed.
I feel it ripples.
I mean, it's possible, but not to the point where I felt like I wasn't loved.
Gotcha.
That's what I meant. Yeah, like, they've always done everything possible. They just, it wasn't like the, the cookie cutter, like Bill Cosby show type of family. It was just like, look, we put a roof over your head. We've exhausted all of our options to put you in the best possible position.
What?
And that's it. Not that they verbalized that, but it's like,
we did it. So
so it's like, what more do you want? So
we showed you we loved you. You want us to say it too? now you asking for too much.
Yeah, so it's like that's something that I've witnessed now. And then, like, even I've reached the point in my life where, like, recently something had happened between my parents, and I was fucking pissed because they was in like a whole heated argument about something so nonsensical, and I was like, yo, y'all on the cusp of 60. I would never want to be in that sort of like level where I'm having like a legit beef.
Well, that's what ours were, like us.
Yeah, it's like, but the shit was just so. Matter of fact, I'll tell the story. So my mom called me.
Sorry, go on.
My mom calls me. She's like, your father never lets me watch the TV all the time. Or every time I'm ready for bed. Like, I want to watch something on the news. I want to watch something on the TV. He don't want to watch. He don't want to watch it. He want to watch basketball, but then he fall asleep. So if I say something, he feels some type of way if I change it. Like, and she's not good with technology, so I had to go to the house, buy a subscription that I'm paying for, just so she can have access to TV.
Oh, this is spicy.
And mind you, when I left the house, the room I was in, he took that room to make like his own like office room, and there's a TV in there. So he won't watch TV in that room. He'll watch TV in the master bedroom with my mother. But if he's not, interested in whatever she's watching, he gonna feel some type of way. And I'm like, I just got home from work. Like, why are you calling me about some bullshit? Like, this is nonsense.
No, I can definitely see how moms is tight. You know what I'm saying? Your father be violating with the TV.
Yeah, but it was like complete nonsense. Like, you're two adults. Like, y'all could have had a conversation about this.
I'm taking some aside.
Or even if it's to this extent of like, okay, let's find a happy medium where, okay, you watch TV on Mondays, I have the TV on Tuesdays.
You gotta choose a side. Mom or dad?
Mommy, because she make food. She make
Whose side are you on? You have to choose a side.
Whose side I'm on?
No,
I'm on my
no. We're choosing the side.
I'm on my mother's side.
Everybody on mom's side.
I'm on my mother's side.
Right.
Because it's stupid.
Mom's 4, Pop's 0. Mom wins.
Yeah, it's
Go back to your parents and say,
It's
Mom,
dumb.
you got it.
And I really was upset. Like, I really was about to, like, go off and, like, blast on him. And I was like, you know what? I paid for the little
you know what?
subscription.
Nobody gets TV. Cut all the cable off. That's what you should have done.
That be me. No, nobody.
Oh, he used to do that back in the day.
Word.
I don't know if Black Americans are like this, but I know Caribbean parents are like this. They'll see, like, the ads back in the day for, like, triple play and some shit, cop it. Then when the real bill comes, they start bitching and then cut everything off. So one day you'll come home like, yo, I'm about to watch a game. TV gone. You ain't watching shit.
No, we didn't have that problem. Nah, we gonna figure out how to pay that bill. We definitely want to watch TV.
Put our money together.
Listen, call your grandmama. Ask her if she got
I probably had
$40
I probably had all the services in my house at one point because he would just cut them off.
Yes.
And they had your name up there like, no, we not installing shit in this family house no more. Cause they always cut it off after the subscription.
Damn, B.
Yeah, but then when it comes to like my dynamic with my mom, like I'm a really private person, so she tries to dig in from time to time, but that shit don't work. And then I mean, I've dated people obviously in the past, but I haven't brought anybody home. And for whatever reason that may be, I think my parents still have that very old school mentality of like they were born and raised in the Caribbean, so they view. I've heard the comments of like, oh, Black American girls are like this, or you know, girls from these specific islands are like this way. So it's like I try to avoid that shit because I don't need that stress from a parent. Like,
nobody.
Exactly. So I've avoided that, but I know it will come to a time where I do meet the right person, and I think they would reach that point because they haven't met anybody where it's like, all right, this is the one. This is the one.
What did he bring home at this point?
It's like, yeah, they'll be satisfied to an extent. Because I've definitely had a few lectures over the past year or so of like my pops like, yo, what's good with you? Like, where's the wife? Where's the kids? It's like, motherfucker, like, you didn't even ask me if I want this. Right. You're just assuming like this needs to get done.
How about you worry about your own relationship with your wife?
First off,
because y'all beefing about TVs, so worry about your own corner pops.
Yeah. So, but yeah, when it comes to that, like, I don't think I would let an outside voice influence who I date. And then when it comes to people I date, the things I consider is, what do you do with your downtime? Because I'm a very busy person, so with all the shows that I'm part of and little projects here and there, like, the downtime needs to be time that, you know, we could actually do things together that we actually like and enjoy.
So finding somebody that's busy as you that could.
Well, not even busy as me.
Well, no, I mean, but occupied in the sense where they can appreciate what you're doing, and they too have things going on.
Yeah, so it's like a level of understanding, and then what it is that you do in your downtime. Because just because you could also be busy, what I want to do in my downtime, not necessarily want to do. Like, I'm not gonna be in the club getting lit. Like, that's never been my thing. But some people, regardless of age, that's what they're into. Yeah. So it's like we have to align there. And then, yeah, like you said, with the understanding aspect, because, like, some weeks I could have all the free time in the world and I could bullshit, and then there's weeks, like, more recently where it's, like, almost every day I have to do something. And some people don't understand that. Yeah. So those are probably, like, the two biggest factors. And then also on the same end is, like, I'm a conversationalist, so I enjoy having conversations with people about various things. So if you can't be on that same sort of level, then it's a waste of my time. Like, I don't really gossip. Like, I hear about it for the sake of social media and things like that, but it's not necessarily things I care about. Like, I prefer to have, like, more meaningful conversations.
Yeah, so. Like debates and stuff.
What about you, Co? How are your parents doing?
Oh, they're great.
They're great.
Cut off for a guy.
Okay, Tony the Tiger.
I come from a blended family. I never seen my mother and my father together. Like, they had me, and then my father got with my stepmother when I was, like, 6 months. Wow. So, my mother, the way that she dated, I always stayed away from it. I feel like it affected the way that I dated. At first, when I was younger, I would always, like, run into the same type of man as her. And it was really bad, because, like, it was something that I tried to get away from, but I feel like I fell into it because I tried to run away from it.
But what were some of the qualities that you saw your mom, like,
like the
some of the
what
qualities
were some of the qualities of the men that she was dating that you kind of found yourself?
They were really trash, really bad. They didn't have like affection.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't paying attention to her. They weren't in tune with her life. They had baby mamas, like a lot of trash, a lot of bad things, and she was the sole provider for most of those relationships. So I made sure that now that I'm at the age that I am, I make sure that that's something that I don't do. Like, I make sure that we're stable, we're kind of equal. But when I was younger, I feel like I ran into that a lot.
So in essence, is it like, do our parents in a certain way, they kind of set the mold for either the things that we shouldn't do? So it's like the opposite. So it's like we see the way our parents have dated, and it's kind of like, depending on the decisions or the mistakes, quote unquote, that they've made, we kind of look at that as a way of like avoiding it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think I saw that with my mother, and then I saw a relationship that was healthy with my father and my stepmother. So I always wanted to be like that when I dated. I wanted to make sure that I had somebody that was kind of the same as my stepmother was for my father.
Well, then, so in that regard, do you kind of think about what could have went wrong with your mom and pops for that to not to work out?
Yeah, recently I've been thinking about that. Like, I feel like the older I get, the more I realize the relationship with my mother and father, it probably could have worked out, but they were so young. But I really want to know, like, why it didn't. Like, the older I get, the more I'm like, okay, so what went wrong? Like, why they didn't work out?
Because clearly your father and your stepmom are Gucci, but
yeah,
you know, what was it about, you know, your mom and dad that just couldn't work?
Yeah, I don't know. They still haven't, like, I feel like because, I don't know, I feel like they don't want to tell me what it was, but it's still, I feel like it could have worked out. It could have worked out some type of way.
Me personally, my mom and my dad weren't together, like, ever. They weren't in, like, a relationship or anything like that. And my father passed away when I was 7, so I didn't really grow up around his family or around him. I just saw him whenever I saw him. So my upbringing was mostly around my mom, my grandfather, his brothers and sisters, and my grandmother, her brothers and sisters. So I grew up around men and women who were always married. I only saw married couples growing up, unless it was like my mom and her brothers, whoever the case may be. When it came to the type of men my mom dated, they were emotionally and physically abusive. Her husband. It was a lot of arguing and stuff going on. And now as an adult, that, like, really bothers me. And I didn't realize that until recently when dating a specific person. I'm like, yo, you always want to argue, and it bothers me to the point sometimes I felt like I just wanted to, like, cry. Like, why are we arguing all the time about nothing?
Same.
Like, this is annoying.
I realize I don't like arguing because I remember in the past my parents used to argue. I never used to like that shit either.
Yeah,
I think that's why I'm turned off from arguing.
Yeah, sense of, like, yelling and everything,
and
and
then
it takes me
and then you
back
shut
to
down.
a place.
Like,
Yeah,
you can't. You don't want to shout. You want to shut down.
yourself.
And then that's when it's like, yo, why are you, like, not saying anything? Because
I don't
want to.
Right, it's one of those. So
Samesies.
I don't even know if it should be a high five, but okay.
You should be aligning on.
No, that's not a high five moment, but
yeah. So that was my mom, and she was very much she was combative, but in the sense of she felt like I need to stand up for myself because, like, you're not going to keep doing this to me. But then she also gave in to, and I find that at times when I need to just, when some people I can just cut off completely and not care. And then there's some people I just can't, and I'm trying to figure out why. Like, what is it? Is it a sense of familiarity in it, like a sense of unhealthy comfort in that? Because you keep going back to the feeling of when it was good and it was okay, which most women who are abused go to. It was good and it was okay. We didn't have problems. But then you're at this little point where everything is bad. You're like, oh, it's going to go away because things are temporary.
Right.
And then it gets good again, but then it gets bad again. So it's like you're constantly waiting for things to go back to being good.
Right. Now you on a fucking Ferris wheel.
Right. So I grew up around that. So when it came to me, even dating in high school and college, I didn't want to date nobody. I was like, I don't want to have a boyfriend. Like, I'm fine. Because my friends going through stuff, they're getting pregnant, they're having an abortion. It was just so much, like, I'd rather not be a part of it, which is why I think I was a virgin up until, like, my very early 20s. I just did not want to deal with that crap. As I got older, my mom did start to date better men, but then they were better quality when it came to being emotionally available. But then they weren't providers. So now my mama got to take care of you.
Yes.
So then it's just like one or the other,
Can't win.
And now she's at a point to where I feel like she's a lot more stronger. And then growing up around having two young adult daughters, and see that, we're very headstrong. We both have our own careers. We work, we date. My sister has a good relationship. She sees that, I'm dating, but at the same time, I'm not bringing just anybody around. I feel like she's taking things from us and trying to figure out what it is she wants in the long run. Because now she's saying she wants to get married. She's going to therapy and she's working on that stuff. So I think it took her a while to get out of the stage of, I'm just tired of men. And I'm trying to stay away from that. Like, I'm tired of men. I don't want to deal with this bullshit. Because even with her starting to date again, you have older men who act like these young little boys.
Exactly.
They got they 55 with 2-year-olds. And baby mama drama and stuff like that going on. And my mom has a whole ass career that she worked hard from after leaving her marriage and everything. So it's like, I'm not going to jeopardize this for a grown ass little boy.
Facts.
So I feel like me and her is kind of on the same page, whereas I'm trying to get out of my own way, out of my own head, and date healthy. And I feel like she's trying to date healthy in, like, this new age.
Right.
Because that's a thing now. Because she's been divorced since I was 15. I'm 33. Mm-hmm. She hasn't dated since I was about 23 years old.
Oh, wow.
So that's 10 years. She hasn't really had a serious relationship.
That's the wild part about dating. Well, I guess in the sense of our parents' age, like dating in this time.
It's different. It's crazy.
Because my mom recently got divorced, you know what I'm saying? And I think there was a point where she was trying to somewhat more or less rekindle things with my pops now. Once again, my pops was stuck in his way. So she told me just now, like, yeah, me and your pops, I don't think that's going to happen. I was like, look, girl, I could have told you that.
Stop it.
But here we are. But no, there was a point where she was telling me, like, in the sense of dating, like, she's kind of afraid to date because, things are different now. You know what I'm saying? It's not like back in their day where it was like, all right, you probably knew somebody from around the way and, your families knew each other and everything could be fine. Like, considering all the abuse that she had from her ex-husband, you know what I'm saying? I think she's just very apprehensive about trying to go out there and find someone else because she's been through this for so long.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, at a certain point you get tired. Like, you want that companionship, but it's just like, who knows, the next person could be the same old shit, or it could be someone completely new. But, just the fact of taking that chance for her is like, I think she's just kind of triggered. She's a little bit, fatigued from that. Like, imagine, like, you divorce somebody that you're married to, and then you go out years and years and years dating multiple people, and they all don't end well.
Right.
And then, you know what I'm saying? It's like you get to a certain point in age where it's like, should I try again?
And I feel like I'm so young.
I don't have the time to, like...
I'm so young and I feel that way. I'm like, already?
I've been...
a little... I have my moments when I'm just like, I think I need a break.
Word.
So take a break.
I think that's where I'm at.
What's the longest break you ever had?
Year and a half.
I'm currently on my longest break from relationships. I think in a very similar parallel, my mom went from relationship to relationship, and I was kind of the same way too. Mm-hmm. And I think now that she's at a point where she's like, she's not really... I mean, I'll say my pops, but that's whatever. But, like, she's, like, by herself. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's kind of a mirror because, like, I'm single as well. And I'm trying to navigate, like, I mean, I'm taking a break now, but it's just like, what does jumping back into the pool look like? Do I even want to do that? And if I do, I want it to be the last time. Like, I don't want to, like, keep jumping from relationships to relationships as I used to. And, it's kind of like in a weird limbo now. It's like, I want somebody, but I don't want nobody. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, that's tough.
I don't know.
Oh? Is that
I don't know. No, I thought that one of them wanted to say something.
No, I think we're all on the same pace. It's like, fuck, what to do?
I feel like when I took my break from dating, I took a break from dating. Like, I wasn't talking to nobody. It was literally just me. to myself and figuring out.
Why are you making those faces?
Because he's not taking a break from dating. Yeah, that's what I mean when I took. Yeah. Like it was just strictly, it was me, you know, getting my health together, me going back to school, me concentrating on myself mentally and emotionally. So I feel like now I'm in a better place now. But because I feel like I've taken breaks here and there, and I wasn't exposed to a lot of things, now I'm being exposed to it, and it's kind of a turn off.
Right.
But I have to accept that these are things that I'm just going to have to go through in order to get to where I want to be.
Right.
But it's still annoying.
Yeah.
It's still annoying. Yeah, it's still very annoying. So, maybe you need like an actual break. A real one?
Don't do that. Don't.
Oh yeah.
Don't,
We've been told you to take like a real break.
Like a
you
real
never
one.
take a real break.
Yeah.
So what do you consider a break?
Because some people, that's a good question. Because some people consider a break like we're not in a relationship. I'm still gonna talk to you. We still gonna fuck, but we're not together.
Right.
Break.
And that's probably currently what's funny enough. One of my homegirls.
Bullshit. Where's my coffee?
All right.
Bullshit.
All right. One of my
I love
homegirls
you.
actually, of course, I love you too. But no, one of my homegirls was asking me like, you know, in the sense of my relationship with women, why I feel like I can't like kind of step away from that and kind of take a break. That's what I was saying. I feel like for me, I don't even think it's an excuse. I've been so conditioned to being in relationships back to back. So now it's like, now that I'm like, not really alone, but it's just like, all right, I'm single. I don't know how to handle it because I've never kind of been in this. This is the longest I've been single in.
It'll be almost a year.
It's almost a year, but like the last time I was like, I started having relationships from the beginning of college, and then it was just kind of like lily pad. So like this is the first time in like what, 10+ years.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Like the last time I was like really single was what, high school, when nobody was checking for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like it was a long span of time being in relationships, and now that I'm like at a point where I'm not, it's like I don't know if my brain could conceive like what single really looks like. And plus, the dating scene is completely different from back then.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't dating back then because nobody was checking for me.
Right.
And I didn't think everyone was checking for me. And then I kind of fell into my first relationship in college, which, you know, everyone's young. So it's just like, was it really a relationship or just, you know, kids messing around? But for the most part, you fast forward and it's like, I'm much more grown than I was then. But at the same time, the dating scene has changed. And I'm just like, you know, I stick to what I know. But at the same time, it's just mad confusing. And as you said, it gets annoying at a point. It's just like, yeah. So I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not perfect. I know that much, but at least I'm getting myself together for myself slowly but surely.
But take a real break though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That part.
All of that was cute, but take a real break though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm slowly working towards it.
I mean, I say I want to take a break from dating, but I like being outside.
I mean, I like.
It's
Okay,
fun.
so I
Like,
like dating.
But you could be
outside.
outside, but
like-
not engage with anybody.
No,
Yeah,
I like dating. I'm not gonna lie. I like the act of dating. It doesn't have to be dating to mean anything, but just like going out with somebody, being cute, blah blah blah, whatever. That's fine. Same tune. I do know I have to kind of slow down, take a step back. I just really need to like discipline, right?
Right.
Like the discipline of actually doing it instead
And
of
we
like saying
spoke about you being honest about certain things,
Mhm.
and how sometimes men think they're being honest and they're really not.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know I'm on some bullshit. Well, believe me, I look in the mirror every day. But at the same time, it's just like it's the discipline and the like actually doing it. That's where it's like it's like dipping your toe into like a cold ass pool. You know what I'm saying? It's like at some point you gotta get in the pool, but it's like it's cold.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
So-
like dating.
All right, Cole.
I like dating. I think because I already set up the boundaries. I really date to see what I want because I don't know what I want as far as companionship. So I feel the more that I date, the more I get exposed to things where I'm like, I like that. I don't like that
So you
one.
window shopping.
Yep.
All right.
It's pretty
And I'm
fun.
learning that from Cole.
It's so
That's
fun.
nice.
That Cole was teaching me that because I'm very much like, no, I don't like nothing. Oh, I like it. It's no in between with me. And she's teaching me just like relax and see. And then be like, hell nah. But from the jump, I'd be like, nah, I don't like his pinky. No.
What?
It be little shit like that. Cole be like, you dead ass. Yeah, I don't like how he was holding the fork. I really don't.
For real.
Nah,
like
that all right. That one's valid.
You
That one is valid. If he holding his fork like Shrek, that's a problem.
Right.
okay.
That's not standards. That's just
He might have caught a
decency.
body.
Word.
So I do enjoy dating. I'm enjoying getting to know the men that I'm getting to know, but then I don't know. I don't know if I become. It is a sense of disappointment because it's just like, now I got to start all over again.
Right.
It's one of those. Like, dang, this could have been fun. You fucked it up.
Because you stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. That's why you gotta have in your mind what you want from it. Like, don't let him control it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know I want a good time with him, so that's all I'm gonna get from him. I'm not gonna be disappointed because he was just a good time.
Setting expectations.
Right.
Look at this. Look at us. Look at
Same
that.
thing like you get excited at a new job. It's like, okay, new space, new environment, get a chance to learn new things. Then once you get more time, it's like, oh, this is all the fuck shit.
This that bullshit.
And then you just focus your energy somewhere else.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's hard for women because from such a young age we're taught to just look for companionship.
Right.
Like that's very important.
Taught by whom?
Mothers, aunties,
Society.
cousins, like even now, like when I go home, the first thing they ask me is like, "So when you getting married, or when you having kids?" Like,
but you realize that this older generation is just pushing what they've been pushed on themselves onto us.
right?
But they never understand that times are different now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not back then. It was like, all right, well, first guy I meet, all right, we gotta get married because we have to support a family and do all this shit and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like we have more freedoms in that regard. Where it's like, all right, I don't have to get married right now because I'm trying to build my career. Our parents probably didn't have the chance to build their career back then. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to like get a job just to get a job because they had probably a kid or whatever. And marriage was just a matter of, all right, let's combine our resources together because we have to, better together than apart. You know what I'm saying? Because being a single mom back then was probably hard as fuck. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, let me marry this man that's decent enough. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's be honest.
That's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, that could have been the case back then. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to marry somebody now because, they're decent enough. It's like, no, nigga, I ain't marrying you just because.
Right.
Like, we have the freedom to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like also some women don't feel worthy until they have that companionship. Like, he feels like I'm worthy enough to be his wife. You know? So it's like going against that while you dating. It's like, okay, I'm dating for fun, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, am I going to be a wife? Am I worthy of being a wife?
Yeah.
Are some guys worthy of being husbands? We don't talk about men's worth a lot, to be honest. It's always about the worth of a woman, but men don't talk about their own worth in dynamics.
And holding themselves to a certain standard to be somebody that she would say yes to.
Correct.
I brought this up on the last show, and I got so much slack when I said, men control the ball. Men control the ball. No, y'all said it on the show even when I brought it up. Both of y'all, because Steven said, in a sense, men do get to choose or have the right to choose when it comes to who they marry. Both of y'all said yes. Yeah. But at the same time, it's up to the woman to say she wants to. Y'all could give us the ring and access, but it doesn't fucking mean we're going to say yes. So do y'all really have the ball in your court when it comes to who you want to marry or even picking us? That's the thing. Women can choose who they fuck or whatever the case may be, and y'all get to choose who y'all marry to, as we don't have that choice. And it's like, we definitely have that choice. We don't have to say yeah to y'all.
1,000%.
Yeah, but some men, y'all say that complete opposite of what y'all say now.
No, but in that regard, it's just a matter of, because once again, if the man is not asking you for marriage, then nobody's getting married. You know what I'm saying? Like, realistically.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like a societal thing. Like, the man is always asked. It's not in the standpoint of, relinquishing the power from the woman. It's just, that's just how it goes, unfortunately. Yeah.
You still have the power to say no regardless. You know what I mean? So the power is still in your
equal
hands.
power, but not equal power at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
It's just trash.
Yuck.
Well, duality.
It's just yuck.
America.
The answer is yuck.
I mean, it's yuck, but at the same time, it's a better option in comparison to other countries where at 13 they're telling you this is who you marrying.
Right.
But are you men even thinking about y'all worthy of being a husband or a boyfriend?
Most men, I would say no.
Most men are not. I'm just trying to be worthy.
And usually they only ask the question when they reach the point where they have to, not because they want to.
Word.
Yeah, a few family members have done that. And I'm like,
Well, there's pressure on both sides, I think. In a different way, but there's a pressure from the woman who's like, oh, when are you going to have a family and settle down? And then there's the pressure on the man where it's like, all right, well, we have kids yet. We don't have a family yet. You know what I'm saying? So the pressure is still there.
Way different though.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying it's still pressure, but completely different in that regard. You know what I'm saying? Like a guy could just go out and not be married and just have kids all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And don't have to present a ring. I mean, but when it comes to a woman, it's like, all right, so where the ring at? Where's the family at? Where's all this at? There's expectations there where it's just like, well, why is all this shit on me?
Well, I have a question because I was having a conversation with somebody about a week ago, within somewhat of the same realm, because she watches mad shit on YouTube and like. Somebody on YouTube.
Oh boy.
No, somebody on YouTube. I guess she's been a subscriber to her channel for X amount of time, and then the person was like, showcases their life and their partner, and then after like 10 plus years, they separated. And her comment was, "Damn, like how you was with this guy for 10 years, and you don't got nothing to show for it. Like you wasn't married or nothing." And my thing is like, I understand the concept of wanting to get married. And I support it, but then at the same time, people kind of always have that same sort of response to like, same thing with Diddy and Cassie. They was together for 10 years, they separated, and all you saw on social media was all these think pieces of how Cassie, quote unquote, wasted her time.
Waste man.
Because he never popped the question and things like that. But I always thought from the psyche of like, just because they got married doesn't necessarily validate the separation. Like it doesn't make things better because they were married now that they're separated. Like yeah, it may work in terms of like separation of funds and assets, but the marriage itself doesn't validate at least it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Of course.
So I never understood like that logic from people when things like that happen.
But then we all locked down that the end goal is marriage. You know what I'm saying? If that
no,
wasn't
that's what society tells
right, but I'm saying if that
but we
wasn't,
don't know Steven stands for marriage.
if that wasn't if the end goal, if the expectation of marriage wasn't the standard, then they could have been together for however long, and when they split, that would have just been like, oh damn, that sucks. Instead of it being, oh, you wasted your time, sis. You know what I'm saying? It's only a waste of time because they didn't reach quote unquote the end goal. If they were married and then they split, they would have been like, damn son, that sucks.
Right, you can't make it work.
Right. Instead of being like, oh, you gave this nigga 10 years, and this is what happens.
But it's still like he gave 10 years too.
Right, but see, once again, it's the woman that wastes her time, not the guy. So you see how the value of time is different for both persons.
I mean,
because society will tell you that women value marriage more than men.
Right.
Like men do it because they have to, not because they want to.
I see it from a biological standpoint too. Because did they have any children? Nope. See, that's where it comes from. Maybe you wasted your time because you probably could have been with somebody else and actually had children or a family that you wanted.
Correct.
So for women, it's more biological. It's always going to be more biological for women than it is for men. So that takes, you got to take that in consideration too. Time, biological, and then, just maybe she didn't want to get married. And maybe she wanted to have children.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are some women out there that don't want to be married with children.
Yeah.
They don't want to be married.
Or
they
like
don't
Cole
want
was
children.
saying, maybe she knew what she wanted from that specific individual.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Cassie, she saw Diddy. That was her opportunity to do whatever she want with it.
Right.
And then once she left that relationship, she found somebody that she wanted something completely different with.
Right, and then it's like, I lost my train of thought. For me, now that I'm getting older, I don't even know if I want kids anymore. So whereas you would ask me 3 years ago, like, hell yeah, I want kids. Now I'm like, I don't know. I think I want them if it was to happen, if it's with the right person. Sure. But if you ask me within the next 5 years, my answer might be no. I don't think I want children.
Do you feel like you have to be married when you have your kids?
At this point now, no. I used to feel that way. I put that kind of pressure on me because, again, I grew up in a household where everyone was married with kids. No one got divorced. The only one who got divorced was my grandmother and grandfather, but they pretty much were still together because I've never not seen them together until she passed away. And then my mom divorced her husband for good reasons. But other than that, my great aunts and uncles, all of them passed away. No one divorced. So I grew up around that. So growing up, and my family being from the South, it's just like, so, they all met each other in college. They all got married. They all had children. Everybody had a house. Everybody got grandkids. And then you have me and my sister, who was just like the creators of the family. And my little cousin, the creators of the family. We making our own way, and everyone's looking at us like, so...
What you doing?
All y'all do is just travel and work.
Where's the
Where's
ring?
the kids?
Where's the ring? Are you guys
This is all
having
y'all
babies on your
do.
travels?
And then my sister has always been very vocal about not really wanting kids.
I can imagine.
Yeah, she's always been vocal. Like, I don't, that's just not her
Okay.
zhuzh, but she'll be a great auntie.
Oh, of course she will.
Yeah,
I mean, she's an auntie now, the baby. Oh, baby.
Yeah. And then it also comes from the fact of just because we may see that the girl didn't get anything out of her 10-year relationship doesn't mean she necessarily didn't get anything.
Right.
Because it doesn't mean a ring. It doesn't, maybe
that's
she
the
got,
that's the big reason why I brought it up.
Yeah, a big learning thing for her, for the both of them actually.
Right. Now imagine back then, just kind of tying it to the theme, but imagine back then, like our parents being with somebody for a long time and they didn't get quote unquote anything out of it. That would have like probably crumbled the family, because once again it's like, all right, you are grooming yourself to be someone's wife or
That's
someone's
pretty
husband.
much what it is.
You know what I'm saying? And back then that was the necessities. Like
That
everything
was
that you're
exactly
doing
it.
was the end goal of you being someone's wife.
Yep.
Now imagine you being with somebody for however long and that wasn't the goal. What are you doing with yourself? You're a waste. Excuse me, like we taught you better, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying?
But this is why I say every relationship is different.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so I might do something with one guy and that's our relationship, but I might not do the same things with him that I'll do with somebody else.
I think it sucks that our parents didn't have the freedom to explore those things back then. They were kind of like just not even forced, but it was kind of like,
It's a completely different world.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that they didn't have the opportunity to experience that. Like fast forward now, depending on if our parents are dating or not, like they're kind of forced into this new standard of what that looks like, and they're not used to that.
And then because they're not used to that, they can't really teach us how to navigate our way through this.
Ooh,
So we're
child.
literally learning.
Oh my God,
They
we're
cannot.
our parents' parents now.
Really?
They
Gasp.
can't, and we got to teach them, and at the same time, we're learning as well.
Right.
It's
So
hard.
scary hours,
I'm my mama's daddy.
spooky times.
Gasp.
What?
I don't know.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. I'm shaking my head. It's not. I don't remember
Don't call
my
my
mom's
name.
pops.
Don't call my name.
I mean, if Nancy would like help me understand.
Nah, I'm good.
So do we have like, are there any good qualities about parents that we actually look for in partners?
Next question.
We
No,
gotta
stop.
make it, we gotta end it on a good note.
Like I said, my parents are great individuals, but I don't take anything from the dynamics of their
Okay.
relationship for, what I would do today. Because they just, like you said, like they just moved to their own tune of like, we were together when we were young. We, came to the country. We've established a foundation, and we're just going to do this for the long run.
Right.
And there's been like little things here and there that don't make sense, because especially when you think about, the dynamics of a Caribbean household, it's the dad goes to work and the mother is the caretaker.
Right.
So even though my father's retired and my mom's working, that dynamic still hasn't changed. Like he still expects her to do certain things, even though she just worked an 8-hour shift.
Right.
But he just been chilling in the crib all day.
With the TV.
Yeah, with
And
the
not,
TV.
and not
That's
the one in the
amazing.
man cave, the one in the
Yes.
master bedroom.
Smith.
The bullshit.
So,
SMH.
yeah, I don't think there's anything from their relationship that I would take and implement into my own life or even suggest for anybody else, because they are literally that meme of like work and die. Like they rarely went on vacation. My mom refuses to take vacations, and even when she does, it's a staycation. And more times than not, she's doing shit in the house. I even got barked on last year when I was trying to pay off for her trip to go to Jamaica with my aunt, and she was like, "Why are you wasting your money?" So
How dare I?
I'm not going to birthday gift.
you're not my mother. What are you talking about? So
You're not my mom.
yeah, so it's like, I mean, my mom is a little bit more receptive to like the ideologies that I try to showcase her and talk to her about, but at this point, it's like, I think she's just waiting for retirement and just kind of chilling. And even then, that kind of scares me, because I remember one time she was having like a knee or a leg issue, and she was like forced to stay home because she had surgery, and she was like, "Yo, I don't know what to do with myself." Like,
I hate those moments of being
like
home.
I'm
Like,
if there's nothing to do in the house, because she's been there for X amount of time, so
Yeah.
she's just like, I don't know what to do. Anytime I do something, your father messes it up, so I got to clean that, and I don't want to do that shit anymore. So it's like, I don't know.
okay, well,
Or
what was the good qualities about your mom that you look for in a partner?
dad.
Right, that's
My father's very determined, very self-reliant. Like, he will figure some shit out to build it himself as opposed to paying for somebody else to do it, which I'm kind of the same way. I'm very independent. I get my stubbornness from him as well. In terms of my mother, mother is just a very caring. She could be naive at times, but it comes off very sweet and very caring. So, I think the women that I date tend to be within that same sort of aspect of just very sweet and very caring individuals. But from father's aspect, I don't think there's really any traits I would take from him when it comes to, the only thing he's just, he'll take care of shit. Now he may take a fucking minute to get it done,
but he's gonna get it done.
But he's gonna take care of shit. So from that aspect, I never had to see my mother necessarily beg for anything for a long period of time outside of the TV. But
she was talking about that TV.
Big scandal.
Yeah.
She taking a step.
But like anything else, like he'll do it. Like he'll complain about it or he'll bullshit about it, but he'll get it done. So at least from
he's a provider.
Yeah, at least from that perspective, she knows she could rely on him. It's just gonna take a lot of arguing before it gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cole, what about you?
From my mother, I think I get my strength from her. I'm really strong. But that can also be a bad thing when I date because sometimes men come in my life and they don't know what role to play. It's like she can do everything on her own, so what can I actually provide for her?
How dare you be independent?
Exactly.
How dare you?
Well, then that's when they gotta get creative.
Exactly.
Or they just have to stop being
and that's why I'm dating
self-conscious?
because they don't know how to be creative.
Why can't it just be...
Because
stop being self-conscious about
especially
stuff,
in this generation, like we have just put materialism at such a high pedestal that men feel like if they just buying you shit or paying for shit, that's the only thing they need to do.
Damn, she can get her own bag.
So,
what am I gonna get her now?
Exactly.
Shut up.
There's so many other ways you can contribute to my life.
Yeah, like people need emotional support. They need physical support. They need spiritual support.
That mental
Niggas can't give
support
you
is
mental
very
support if
serious.
they're not stable themselves.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
And I oop. I'm just saying.
What about from your stepmama?
Oh, my stepmom. I got so many things from her. I don't want to say it like that because that'll make it seem like
No, I mean,
it's
but
the
you
truth,
value her role in your life.
I feel like I got a lot of her strength as well from being with a person that has a child already. It was hard for her to go from being a single mother to be with my father and then be with my mother who made their relationship a little crazy, but that's another story. But yeah, her strength. No, that's a long story. Her strength, as well as her affection. My mother is not affectionate at all. Like, we don't hug, we don't do things like that. My stepmother really encouraged that on me, even though I'm not hugging. Yeah, but when I'm in a relationship, I am.
Do you and your moms like dap each other? Like, yo, what up?
But hey, girl.
Yeah, we just like.
Oh, what up?
Yeah.
Head nod, like.
Yeah, it's no hugs, no kisses and stuff like that. But I got that from my stepmom, so I'm grateful for her.
That's cool.
But another thing I wanted to say, I feel like, you know how we were talking about the things that we see in our parents that we might try to avoid in dating. I feel like with our parents, we also sometimes get their karma. Because I feel like I got my father's karma. Yeah. Ooh, child.
Ooh, that's a chill.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like I do. Like, my dating history, I have always gravitated towards people who reminded me of my father in different ways. And that goes back to also bringing a child into relationships. I dated a lot of men with children, and I feel like it's that karma that I'm getting from my father that he put on my mother.
Ooh. Yikes. How much pounds is that? Because that was heavy.
Yeah. And it's been hard to combat it because I still sometimes gravitate to that. But now that I acknowledge it, I kind of deal with it better.
Better than me.
Wowzers. My mom once said about my dad, great father, horrible husband. And I don't want to be that. I'd like to be both. So I think in that regard, and, you know, my father's made his mistakes. He's kind of settled with that now. You know, in the sense of providing, excellent provider. Like, in the sense of him and his kids, like, he would always make sure to, like, come through and support and stuff. Not really a nurturer, not really a hugger, not really one to kind of, like, I mean, he says I love you, but it's just more, I think it's just a reflex. Mm-hmm. He's never been that affectionate. I get all that from my mom. You know what I'm saying? The stubbornness, pops. The affection and love and stuff, mom. So it's a weird mix. Like, even the time when recently they were, like, I was in Florida and I was with both of them, considering that I grew up with them separately and I interact with them separately. Like,
so watching them together was...
Being in the same space with them together after so long was just like, it was like two different sides of me pulling at each other. You know what I'm saying? Where my dad is kind of like very just like stoic, cold, and whatever. My mom is very like loud and rambunctious and loving. So it was like, those two sides were kind of like coming together, and it was just like, I don't know.
It was like
a weird.
bad meal.
It's weird because I have two different sides of me. You know what I'm saying? And they both kind of make me who I am, but it's just, I think my parents kind of forced that through their relationship, or lack thereof, you could say. You know, so yeah, kind of like that karma. My pops was, I guess, a ladies' man back then, whatever. That's kind of translated to me, but in the sense of just being able to interact with women and have relationships with them
without it being anything more than just platonic.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's where it kind of just, I guess, gets dicey or whatever. You know, I don't know. I mean,
take a break.
Gosh.
Heavy. It's all heavy. I can blame my dad, but it's not fair.
It's not fair. Yeah. When it comes to me, what I get from my mom, I get her strength, her tenacity. Like, no matter what my mom was hit with, she always figured it out, and she always made sure, like, her children was good. Like, we dealt with certain things, but she always made sure that we, quote unquote, left the block. So to whereas other kids probably grew up in the same environment as we have, their lives turned out differently than ours did. You know, so it's like, just because you live here doesn't mean you're going to go to school here. So you're going to go to school all the way across town. You're going to go here for the summers. You're going to do all of these activities. So she made sure we were cultured. And we always had this big library in the house. So even if your school didn't teach you this, y'all going to pick a book this week and y'all going to read a book and then y'all going to write about it. So she always made sure that we were well educated. And I take, you know, education and work very seriously, because she always worked. Even when she didn't have time to show up to, like, my school plays or anything like that, I knew it was because she was working and she was trying to provide for us. So I take that, her strength, my ability to want to provide for my family in the long run. I can't say for my dad, so I'll say for my grandfather. My grandfather has taught me that when I choose a man, he has to 100% be a provider across the board. He has to be respectful of women in general, and then be respectful of me. And because I grew up around a lot of people who were married, I saw a lot of love. So even though I have times when I'm just like, this shit is stupid, I'm still very lighthearted in the fact that I still believe in true love. I still have that instilled in me, so it hasn't made me bitter. So I take that away from them. When I look for a partner, I want to laugh. I want to have fun. Like, I'm very silly, but I also need someone who is stern as well, because I can definitely just wander off in my head and lose focus. So I need someone who can, like, pull me back. Like, all right, that was cute, playing with the butterflies, but now you have to do this. So I need someone who's stern in that sense. I need someone who's healthy, like, mentally.
All the healthiest.
Healthy. Yeah, you have to be there. But I also don't want anyone who is necessarily intimidated by me, like what Cole said sometimes. Because you may look at me or see me, like, well, she got all this stuff going for her, like, what can I actually give or provide? It's like, you can provide a lot. I'm doing everything. Right. So do something so I don't feel like I'm doing everything.
My plate.
Yeah,
support me. Help me. Encourage me.
Provide.
I might have some crazy ass day.
Something. Yeah.
Say, babies, you got this. Why did niggas can't figure that shit out?
Because they didn't. They dumb, and then again, they didn't grow up around certain things.
Exactly.
So they don't have examples, and then they have people who around them who are enabling that behavior because they didn't grow up around that either. So we're just gonna do the same shit.
Gotcha.
We're just gonna do the same shit, and
all right.
If someone say no, then it's no. But I'm still gonna do what the fuck I want to do at the same time. There it is. So, what do we want to take away from this episode?
Don't be your parents.
Don't be your parents.
That should probably be the time of the episode. Don't be your parents.
Ooh.
You do see examples of, like, parents that do, you know, showcase the proper love between each other. But like I said, like my parents weren't bad, but in terms of the dynamics of a relationship,
it could have
like,
been a little bit better.
It could have been way better.
We are not our parents first and foremost. So I think
Right.
yes, we could take certain things from them, but at the end of the day, we are our own individuals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can't live off of their guises of what a relationship should be and shouldn't be. They should have been able to provide a guide for it, but at the end of the day, we have to navigate our own relationships how we see fit. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that worked for them is not going to work for us.
Yeah, it's the same argument you make when it comes to them having to, work because that was the only outlet and
Right.
they didn't really have time to develop themselves as individuals, let alone as a couple. And now we have a generation of their children where we're more entrepreneurs, we're doing more traveling, we're trying to live life to the fullest, as opposed to their focus was like, I got to put a roof over my head and this is the only thing I need to be focused on right now. So there's way more outlets and just way more information that we have that they don't have. So we should just be using it to our benefit. And while, you could look at the dynamics of your parents, you can just say, well, I could nitpick at certain things that is positive and keep, and there's certain things that is negative and I could learn from and not repeat those same behavioral patterns.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think we have to thank our parents in a way for us even having the freedom to kind of navigate our own way. You know what I mean? Like, outside of just them bringing us into the world, it's kind of like, all right, you led by example in the sense of us observing how y'all kind of navigated life, and now we have the ability to, once, as Steven said, like, take from that, learn from it, and kind of forge our own way. So, yes, thank you, Mom and Dad.
I think this conversation made me nervous to be parents. Like, to know how that can impact a child and the way that they look at the world. It's like, ooh, am I good enough as a person to say,
well, I don't think it's a good enough thing. I think as a human being, you're constantly growing and evolving. So even if you was to have a child at any point in your life, just because you may implement things at that time that's, feel like are positive for your child, you could flip the script and change all of that. So there's no ideal person that is ready to have a child. You are learning at the same time. The same way the world just advanced so rapidly while we were growing up is the same way it's going to happen to everybody else. So whenever you reach that point where you're going to bring life into the world, I think you should just have a focus on, like, these are the sound morals I want this child to have, but then also have an understanding of the world is changing around them. And I think a lot of parents in our parents' generation didn't realize that. Like, they kind of, the cliche thing of, oh, don't play video games because it's going to ruin you. And there's a bunch of people that make a shit ton of money off of video games.
Exactly,
It's just little shit like that that could have a profound impact. So it's like not being so stern on the things that are learned behavior from you, and then also learning, like, the world couldn't possibly change at a pace where things are going to be different for the next generation. Which kind of ties into, like, why voting is so important, because you have older people that vote and they're voting from a world that fits. They're voting from their perspective, but the world is not going to be for them. They're going to die out when the changes are implemented. So you got to be voting for the next generation, not necessarily for yourself. So it works the same way when it comes to parents as well. Right.
And we just gotta, I think we have to be kinder to ourselves in the fact that there's no blueprint for this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our parents back then probably didn't know what they were doing when it came to, like, raising us, and they probably didn't understand the impact that they would have on our lives. So in this regard, it's just like, that's something that's constantly going to be a thing. Like, if you want to be a parent, you're not going to have everything figured out. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be figuring it out as you go along. And our parents were doing the same shit. So, you just got to be, probably our parents weren't kinder to themselves back then, but at least we have the breath to say, like, yo, like, all right, I'll figure this out some way, somehow, but as long as my kid is healthy and has some level of, being provided for, then, yeah, I'm good. Anything to add?
No, I'm just thinking in my head.
That's nice. Well, one other thing I wanted to add is, like, the emotional aspect. That's probably the most important aspect, because a lot of parents just kind of focus on, you need to do well in school, I put a roof over your head, like, I provide you the everyday resources for you to quote-unquote live. But the emotional aspect, especially for people of color, is something that just constantly get ignored, because we see the shit all the time of, like, kids, committing suicide because of shit that happens in their school and things like that. Back in the day, your parent would tell you, like, yo, like, fuck them up, or you defend yourself. It's like, no, there's a mental aspect that needs to be tackled first before you do anything else. And they kind of, because we're so programmed to, like, whatever shit happens to them, it's like, oh, you don't got time to be worried about this. Like, you got a kid you got to feed, you got rent you got to pay. Parents in general should be taking the time out to really provide emotional support to their children and then worry about all the other things.
And that's the fucking benefit of our generation, because we're so focused on mental health now and the benefits and importance of it. We can now bestow that on our kids, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Our parents, that was never a focus for them.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we lucked out. You'll be alright. You'll be alright. You'll be a good mom.
Okay. I hope so.
People
I
said,
got a long time.
people said that I'll be a good dad, so I don't see it, but they all say so. So, alright, I believe you.
I'm getting good practice with pacing. So I'm straight. I know I'll be a good mom if the time comes, I decide that's what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah. But I think more so, taking away from this whole type of episode, I want to be kinder to myself and not. I want to be kinder to myself and not feel bad for my own standards and boundaries. Because I feel like when it comes to dating, I take it personally when someone doesn't, I don't know,
Align,
but then at the same time, it's like they don't respect my standards.
Right.
And in sense of a lot of times men, they can't reach you. They can't reach you where you at. And so they try to belittle a little bit of
Kinda
what you're used
bring
to.
you down to,
Yeah,
you know,
because they can't reach that pedestal in a sense. So they try to make you feel bad for that. And even reading like on the internet and stuff and talking to some of my friends, it's just like, where do these men come from? To whereas they're trying to make you feel bad for actually having standards and morals.
those are individuals from broken homes. Like, they don't value themselves, so they're not going to value others.
Correct, because they don't know what value
Right.
means.
So I'm trying to take that
They can't even
personal.
spell it.
B-A-Y-U-L-E?
But they're doing you a
Yes.
favor, because when they do that, then you know, like, this is not somebody I could entertain. So you just move on.
So you just
Right.
read them out.
Right. So I'm learning how to not take that so personal. Like what I've worked hard for, and you know, when it comes to bettering myself, the time that I have taken, I can't feel bad if someone can't meet me there. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
That's not
There's
my
no reason to
problem.
take
They
it
will
personal.
be A-okay.
Yeah.
You have to be okay too.
Like J. Cole said, what you eat won't make me shit. Who you fuck won't make me come.
My favorite, one of my favorite Aquarians.
Let me squeeze in on a J. Cole line.
That's my
That's
light-skinned
his
brother.
bro. That's his bro.
Yeah, light-skinned brother, yo.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this show up.
Thank you to Co for coming through.
Yes. I've been trying to get
Gang,
her back on the show, but with our work schedules, it's hard.
Yeah. We'll see you in 2022.
Yep. Another 2 years.
Pretty much.
Another
Keep
2
the
years.
tradition going.
So,
Thank y'all for having me.
Of course, we're gonna try to have you back as much as possible. We're very picky with who we allow on the show.
Definitely.
Even when we was talking
selective.
about this, even
We're
when
selective.
same word, pretty much.
I'm just trying to polish it up. But
No.
we're selective.
Sophisticated ignorance.
All right,
Polish
whatever.
up what? Bitch, we don't want you here.
Oh, now you got moods. Now you
We
got
don't want
energies.
you here.
All right, cool. Let's say less.
What she said.
Yeah, see,
Facts.
I was
All
right.
Hey, well, no matter me, I'm here.
Let them know where they can follow us and listen to the show.
You can tune in every Monday on most streaming platforms. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. I feel like Spotify, YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. All of our pages are tagged in the episode bio.
Shout outs to Bianca as well.
Yeah, gang. Make sure you tune in to Culture Podcast as well. And that's it. That's all I got for the people.
Yes.
Where can they find you, Cole?
Yes.
Once more.
Oh.
Do you want to be found?
Oh yeah.
Sure, yeah. You can find me at I am Colondra, Colondra on Instagram. That's it.
That's it.
That's
Just
it.
that one.
Okay.
Just that
where
one.
y'all monies.
Just that one.
No more.
And yeah, that's it. That's what we got. We'll see y'all next time.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Full Love and Ignorance.
Shut. Bye.
I'm
Get the fuck.
definitely editing that out.